Welcome, everyone, to episode 126 of Manifesting with Meg, Conversations with Extraordinary People. And I love this episode because it not only is an incredible new-ish take on what we love about Facebook and how the connections arise, but she's delightful. She's humoristic. She's engaging, and I get to bring her to you, all of my beautiful audience. So without further ado, season 7 continues. Year of Live, Love, Laugh, and of course play with special guest Amy Weinland Daughters, author of Dear Dana. So this is episode 126. Look forward, therein lies a brilliant destiny. I do love this. It's kind of shifting the focus from Carpe Diem in January to love in February. And I love that it's on the cusp because what Amy writes is really, truly all about love for the people around her and the things that show up in her life. And you'll get to see a little bit more of that as we go. As you all know, this is a show about transformation, dreams, inspiration, my favorite, true happiness, and discovering bliss. And this year we're looking at more at how will you serve. So we are just a conversation away from extraordinary. Time to wake up to the universe packed with possibility. So without further ado, Amy Weinland Daughters is a keynote speaker, letter writer, satirist, sports journalist, and award-winning author of 2 books, Dear Dana, That Time I Went Crazy and Wrote All 580 of My Facebook Friends a Handwritten Letter, and You Cannot Mess This Up, a true story that never happened. She is absolutely convinced that when human beings connect individually in a meaningful way, that nothing can separate them. Welcome to the show, Amy. It's so nice to see you and connect face to face at least. How are you today?
I'm great, Meg. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm really excited to be here.
I have been following you a bit on Facebook, obviously somewhat to get to know you a little better and also to engage in your brand and what your message is. And I really do love it. I think that, it's very healthy. It's very optimistic, hopeful, which we love to have in the world today. And, generally, what you did with Dear Dana, and like I said, was all the wonderful things around Facebook that we can connect. And one of the whole being principles of well-being is really that we're all interconnected. And I love the fact that you can even see something that would seemingly be not so positive and turn it into something really amazing. I want to start with wonderful themes today. It's kind of interesting. We're all kind of full bodied into January. I mean, this is a month to month show. So, I'm not sure how your January was or maybe, how you're engaging in the world, but how you doing as far as that's concerned and looking forward.
Oh, engaging with the world? Well, you know, I I've continued to continue to spend about 15, 20 minutes every morning and write someone a letter or a card or a note. And so that's the legacy of Dear Dana. And it's almost like this adrenaline rush that I can't stop being a part of. And so it is, but I think our stories together, like your approach to life, and I'm sure your audiences is so in sync with mine, and that's why I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. So,
Me too. And I think the cool thing in life, and I always will say this till my dying days, is that it's all synchronicity, right? It's are you really paying attention to who shows up on your path and getting curious around the why and their why? Because I think that you can benefit your life certainly by virtue of engaging in that wonderful, wonderful space of possibility. One of the things I wanted to set out with, obviously today we're going with the theme, look forward, therein lies a brilliant destiny. Was specifically, you finished the book. I think the last letter was in 2017.
2022, yeah. And you're an author as well, so it took a while between I wrote the last letter, I got it the next morning, wrote the first 4 chapters of Dear Dana, and then that started the long journey of let's write a book and see what happens.
I will take you back to that last day when you were giddy around writing that last letter. But before I do, I want to read to everyone a little bit about what exactly Dear Dana is about so they get a good idea before we delve in. And no worries if we bounce around because there are all these insights and wonderful things coming to mind. So I'm going with it. When Amy Daughters reconnected with her old pal Dana on Facebook, she had no idea how it would change her life. Though the two women hadn't had any contact in 30 years, it didn't take them long to catch up. And when Amy learned that Dana's son Parker was doing a stint at St. Jude battling cancer, she was suddenly inspired to begin writing the pair weekly letters. When Parker died, Amy, not knowing what else to do, continued to write Dana. Eventually, Dana wrote back and the two became pen pals, sharing things through the mail that they had never shared before. The richness of the experience left Amy wondering something. If my life could be so changed by someone I considered just a Facebook friend, what would happen if I wrote all my Facebook friends a letter? A whopping 580 handwritten letters later, Amy's life, and most of all her heart, would never ever be the same again. As it turned out, there were actual individuals living real lives behind each social media post and profile, and she was beautifully connected to each of those extraordinary, flawed people for a specific reason. They loved her and she loved them, and nothing, not politics, belief, or lifestyle, could separate them. So here we are, and I'm going to take you back to the question at hand. When you finished that book, did you really truly see a brilliant destiny? And I want to take you back to a quote that I love that goes along with today's insight. Don't look back. Someone might be gaining on you. Satchel Paige. And it's interesting that we have this quote because you really did look back. You look back.
I thought about that when I read it this morning. Yeah, I did. And I looked back at, my past, and I did think, and I thought that same thing when I read the quote this morning, the Satchel Paige quote.
Yeah. And I'm always like, well, what fun can happen? So it actually shifted, I think, a little bit to not really dwelling on the past, but seeing how the past can engage your life today and make it even better by virtue of having lived it, having those wonderful memories come up that you remember your neighbors from when you grew up and and these people who Dana specifically probably you both benefited from each other. But when we go through those dark times, those people show up in our lives, and that's maybe from our past, our present, or maybe people we haven't met before. So I love the fact that decide on the present action to propel your life forward. Certainly this conversation with you is one of those present acts we chose. And I got a letter from you. I get to say I got an Amy Weinland Daughters letter in the mail. One of the best things ever, just going to the mailbox, not finding a bill, but finding a beautiful note from her. So take it away, Amy. Where are we going with this?
Well, I think that looking at the past, it's funny to look at my story through that lens. Like, let's look forward, because I love that quote. But the thing is, the past, though, it's like turning the past into the future, if that makes sense. It's like looking back at, how people had impacted my life in the past. And the letter writing is very forward thinking, very moving forward. So it's like gathering everything up and going forward with it is the way I look at it.
And it started through writing letters to Dana, and you met
Mhm.
Dana at camp way back when when you like started out in your process of adulting.
Right, right. I was 18 when I met Dana.
So
So,
it was 30 years between the time you met her and when you started this letter writing.
mhm.
I would say connecting writing, right? Again,
Right. And, those letters with Dana, she was this random girl I met at a summer camp. And we both have huge personalities. Like, she would be the third screen on this, and we'd be cracking each other up, all three
yeah,
of us.
yeah,
And so we had this 6 weeks of time together. Like, who knew even really happened? No one really has any lucid memories of all that.
yeah.
But she'd always, that name had been knocking around in my head. And so I go on Facebook just like all of us do. I'm like, oh, I wonder what happened to Dana. So ding, she shows up. No mutual friends, which is crazy. I friend her. She she accepts it. Now she probably is like, oh my gosh, why'd I do that? These years later. And so I immediately find out about her son having cancer. The youngest of her 5 children. She has 4 daughters and a son. And I immediately, as a human being, got involved. But I like to talk about the story like in levels of like craziness. Like,
Yeah.
level one was, oh, like, I'll get involved in these people's story and like overfeel a little bit, because I was totally overfeeling it. She asked for prayers, I prayed, and he fought the cancer, and then they go back home. He starts doing the treatment locally. They get out of Tennessee and go back to Louisiana. So it seemed like he went back to school. It seemed like everything was better, and at the end of 2014, he relapses.
Mm.
And this story, really, that part of the story has nothing to do with me, and I'm aware of that. This is this woman, Dana, who is now my best friend.
Yeah.
This is her story. And I tell that with all the respect in the world. And I actually struggled with, do I write a book about this?
Yep.
Because, this family's absolute tragedy is the basis of the first part of the story. But so he goes into back to St. Jude. He's the cancer's back, and just one day, I out of nowhere, it was like a bolt of lightning from the heavens. I hadn't written anybody a letter in 30 years. I was like, oh, you know what I'll do? I'll go crazy like number two, and I'll start sending these two people who are literally, I've never met Parker and not seen Dana in 30 years. I'll start sending them cards at the Ronald McDonald House in Memphis, Tennessee, like a crazy woman. So I start doing that like that's a normal thing to do. And I'm sure she said that she said after the fact they were open and going, now who is this? And Parker was like, now who is she? And Parker went to a summer camp. So he's like, that's cool, Mom. That's cool that she's like a camp person. So I start sending them letters, and that goes on for about six weeks maybe. I send the two of them letters, and then Parker passes away at 15. And there are no words I can use to say anything but just this is my friend's, absolute, the nobody wants to associate that with, even in their head, the
Yeah.
loss of a child. So I know it doesn't have anything to do with me. I did send a sympathy card, but then I was like, what do I do now? Like, I felt like this was so going to be the deal,
Yeah.
like it's all about me. I was going to write these letters. And so I was like, I kind of just like got this overwhelming feeling like I'm just going to keep writing the letters.
Yeah.
And so then I stalk her husband's address at his law office, and I start sending the letters there because crazy level 3. Like I'm just like I'm totally nuts.
Okay, wait, I gotta stop you. You leveled yourself.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was like DEF CON, like those movies like war games where they have
Yeah.
they're in that situation room. Well, my situation room was my husband going, what's going on,
What are you doing?
and the post office going, please keep buying stamps.
Yeah.
And so I just keep writing her. I write her for probably 4 months, and she Facebook messaged me and is like, here's my home address. And my friends were like, that's the cease and desist.
Yeah.
Quit sending those letters to that guy's office. But she told me in that first message, like, the letters really mean a lot to me, because the whole time I was writing, I was like, you are crazy. She has lost her son. What good could this even do? And I've known the whole time I can't really do anything for Dana. But anyway, so she starts writing me back. And I go to my mailbox in Dayton, Ohio, where I lived at the time, and I could not believe it. It was like this 6-page letter, and she starts sharing about her grief. Well, this kicks off 2 years. Well, all we did was communicate through the mail, and I could not believe how profound this was, because I didn't know how she voted. She didn't know what my specific brand of religion. We didn't know our of what we thought about gender issues. We didn't know anything about any of that. We just trusted each other because there was this exchange of words, and we didn't know who read what when, which was good because she was saying things that I had no idea what to even respond to about her grief. And she said, she's doing life with the 4 girls and the husband, and she want to bring down the room on a given day. And so she would just write me. And I was putting my life in order from the outside in. I was writing about my marriage and my kids. And it just seemed like it was almost therapeutic and cathartic to write her. And I sat back about 6 months of that, and I was like, man, this has absolutely changed my perspective on so many things. This random girl who I don't even really know. And I was like, what else goodness is out there? And I was like, wow, crazy level number 4. Here we go. Let's go. Let's light a match. Let's write all these people. And I never thought I was going to finish that business, but it gained a momentum of its own. It was absolutely the best version of me writing those letters. It took me 18 months to write almost 600 letters. And it was absolutely the best thing I've ever done in my life.
And then you come up with this beautiful book, Dear Dana. There it is. And that's 580 letters, but not just responses on Facebook. You actually put pen to paper and wrote out 580 letters. That means you got their addresses, you found where they lived, and then you sent these beautiful letters to them, and you made it into a story. The letters were really forward thinking in that you really intended to connect with people that were in at least your past on Facebook, or somehow your history before. When we're walking on the stage of life, we really should pay attention to who crosses our path, because they who knew it, Dana and you, would have such a profound impact on your life, not necessarily at the time you met each other, but years later when something that was monumental impacted one, and and then the impact of this friendship that's brought you to a place where, now we're talking and we live in totally different areas of the world as well. So this beautiful spiral of love, like you say in your book, it's all about love, albeit I don't know what religious creed or anything to that impact, but the fact is that you connect there. So one of the things I would love for you to explain was, how did this forward momentum begin once you decided it's time, I'm going to sit down and start writing a letter project, basically.
Right. Well, at the beginning, I mean, and I say this in the book. I journaled through the whole project. So the first day I sat
Right.
down, I ordered the stationery, and then I listed these rules. This is what I'm going to do. Like, I have to write 2 pages.
Right.
I have to write the letter before I find the address. So that part was intentional, but I love the first quote in the journal. It says, quite possibly the stupidest thing I ever came up with, the Facebook letter writing project.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so the first couple letters, and I say this in the book, were super awkward. I was like, what am I going to say? What am I actually doing? And if I didn't have an address, I would Facebook message the person. That was super awkward, but
Yeah.
what happened was it took probably 10 or 15 letters for me to realize, wait a second, this is something really special. One, because I didn't realize in 2017, I wrote the letters, in 2016, 2017, I didn't realize that people were going to connect the dots. Like, if you wrote me a letter, especially now, like, it wouldn't have been a big deal in the 80s, but I know what you did, Meg. I knew you had to get a paper and a pen.
Yeah.
Then you had to sit down in that chair and write something and the letters turned out to be meaningful only because, what do you say? So I go look at their Facebook profile, and then I consider who they were in my life. And you put those two strands, like, oh my God, this is a real life. People, they're doing stuff that's not in the Facebook feed. If you go look at everyone intentionally, one by one.
Yeah.
And then there's so much you could comment on. You could thank people, you could congratulate people, you could support people, you could do all those things. But if I know you sat down and then you said something meaningful that was obvious, that you looked at me as an individual, and then you had to, like, lick the envelope, and that's kind of gross, that's disgusting. And then you had to look, Meg, where's your stamps? I didn't have any stamps, unless I was doing Christmas cards. And so I had to go find a stamp. You had to go find a stamp. Then you had to go next level. You had to get in your car, and where is the post office, Meg?
Yeah.
And, like, where's the blue box? And you had to drop that off. And so on the other end, you said that earlier when you got my card in the mail.
Yeah.
You went to your mailbox and opened it up, and you just delivered. You just went wham in someone's life. And I didn't even know that was possible for 66 cents.
Yeah.
You could blow it. So 580 times people had that experience because of Dana and Parker. That's the way I will always frame this story. 580 times that happened. I have that power. You have that power. We all have that power. So when I figured out I had the secret sauce that I didn't even mean to get, it's like, it was so not intentional on my part, and it made it so magical, because I didn't mean to. I was just like, that's a crazy idea. Let's do it. That's kind of my personality. And the next thing you know, I'm blowing it up. The next thing you know,
I love it.
And so the momentum was, oh my God, this is so special. And then also, oh my God, I cannot do this anymore. Like, this is killing me.
Yeah.
My hand hurts. I had a bleeding callus on this finger, and I was emotionally done. I knew I couldn't be friends with all these people. Everyone was sharing. I walked away guilty on some level because I couldn't respond to everything. But it was so, and I had a friend at the time who just kept going, duh, you're going to keep writing the letters.
Yeah.
But when I got, the beginning was so beautiful because no one knew. I didn't tell anybody what I was doing. I didn't tell Dana until letter 100, and we were still pen paling at the time.
Wow.
But once it got over, then people were expecting their letter, and so that was part of. I had to finish. Plus, I just knew the whole time it was like I was living on sacred ground for those 18 months.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be the greatest thing I ever did in my life. We dropped the letter 580. I have a picture of my son and I dropping that in the box, and he was like in 5th grade. He looked at me, he said, Mom, you realize this is the greatest thing you will ever do in your life.
That's amazing. That's amazing. But it's interesting because it started something. Like, we talk about, meaning of life and purpose. And then as we live, we become more and more into that.
Right.
And you graduated from Texas Tech, right? And then you became a freelance writer, right? So this is not something outside of your wheelhouse. This is something you do. You write for a living.
Right.
But the act of actually writing a letter intentionally to connect with another person one on one, and not writing for the whole audience, wherever audience you might have, is a completely different intention and effort. And the fact of the matter is, when you read your book, you can see how maybe some people answered them, maybe others did not, but still there was, that there was a connection. And in Valerie's asking, did the recipients receive the letters well?
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I couldn't. Yeah, that's a great question, Valerie. And I could not understand how well they would be received. Like I did not, every letter in the first paragraph, I would be like, blah, 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 I'm crazy. And I would say that. I'm writing all of my Facebook friends' letter. I'm bananagrams and nuts. And
Yeah.
here's the story of Dana and Parker. Because I feel like, because when I first approached this book, they're like, is this two books or one? I was like, no, it's one book. Because one doesn't happen without the other.
Yeah.
Without Dana and Parker, there is no Facebook project, absolutely none, because that space that we created, Dana and I, is what led to all the other letters. But, people over and over again, they would share with me, they would respond. They were so well received that they were like, you chose me, even though I was very clear on choosing everyone. They're like, oh my God, you chose me. I was like, no, I'm pulling names out of a box, but that's how they felt.
Well,
They
stop for a
felt
second
chosen.
there. How you did so was that you put all the names of these people in a box, and
Right.
you chose them. You picked them as to when that you would write the letters, correct?
Right. It was so random. And that was the another major common thread in responses was, oh my God, the timing was so perfect. The timing, the timing.
Yes.
And I'm like,
Love
I'm literally pulling these little slips of paper. I mean, Etsy was not going to sponsor any of my equipment in this thing because it was like a cardboard box with like this crude cutout at the top. And
Yeah.
I'm pulling these little names out. And I got up to where I was doing 2 letters a
Yeah.
day. But they felt, again, the timing, it was just, the whole thing was otherworldly. And people can frame that however they want to. I frame it as God. But I talked to so many people who, in the beautiful part of that story, I connected with so many people who don't share my politics or don't share my religion or don't share my views on anything. But all of that started to dissipate because there was so much hope just in the connecting that I don't want to frame the story. I want everybody to frame the story their own way because it's everyone's story.
Yeah.
This is everyone's story, not my story. You
Yeah, and
know,
it goes back to one of you say Dana and Parker, and the interesting thing that something good can come out of something very dark and sad, but at the same time, what you said was his energy is all over this. So
oh,
it's kind of it's a
I think it
legacy
is.
for him. It's a continuation of his life, and how he impacted you and others. It's probably how he was and still is, because like you said, the otherworldliness. I like the invisible hand. I mean, Parker's invisible hand brought us together. Then that
No,
makes
I think you're right, and I think, and I don't, you know, I feel like speaking about Parker for me is because that's Dana's, that's a tricky thing. Again, I had a problem with like, do I do this book or not? Because here's now she's my best friend,
yeah.
and this is her tragedy. But I absolutely think that this is all due to Parker and who he was and who he is.
Well, I feel honored to know him through your eyes. I wouldn't have. I mean, I know she lives somewhere in Texas for sure. It's like I would never have met her except through your eyes. I think that's the beauty of writing a book, is
Right,
to offer this wonderful notion of a person into reality for more people to benefit from. Their story, your story, all of us. And Valerie's saying, those small steps will get you there. Look, each one that you committed to, it's gotten you to the next until you finally have a published beautiful book that tells a very beautiful story.
right. And that small step is such a valuable thing. And you've written books, and so you know this. It's like, how do you write a book? Is you sit down and write some every day.
Yeah.
But people ask me, how did you go nutso and write 580 letters? But that's just writing a letter a day until all of a sudden you, back to your part about the past, you look behind you and you're like, wow, like, well, that's some crazy nonsense. I mean, that's some blown up, but that's how it happens. It's
Yeah.
those small
I love
steps
you
that we
keep calling
encourage
it.
each other
So
on.
here we go. We start off with this one, and I
Oh,
love it.
this one of
I
my
may
favorite
not
ones.
be the prettiest or the funniest girl out there, but let me tell you something. I'm also not the smartest. Okay, so clearly this woman has a sense of humor. What
Yeah,
is?
that's awesome. And I like the girl, and I made this myself.
Yes,
The girl running up the hill because it's
yes,
like, what is happening here?
yes.
Yeah, I think that really says a lot about me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's interesting because we I love it how we always try to compare our insides to other people's outsides, and literally you're going to not. You're not measuring up somewhere, at least in your mind. And
Right.
in their world, they're doing the same thing and they're not measuring. So it's funny when you just put it all out there. Yeah, let me just call myself out and that's it. Let's just start from there. How about
Right.
that? How about
Right.
I
Right.
love
And what you said about, I loved what you just said about comparing our insides with someone else's outside. And that happens so many times over and over again in that letter writing project. I assume so many things about people that like I knew just from the Facebook news feed. And obviously there was no bad will on my part. I assumed things wrong because I'm a human being. But over and over again, people made me see that, that wasn't like their life. And this is so, like, we all know this, but to be confirmed over and over again, these people's lives were not as good as they looked. And to have that confirmed over and over again was so, I mean, I don't know that it was gratifying. It was just so reassuring,
yeah.
reassuring over and over again
Love
that
it.
that I wasn't doing it all wrong. Though I am not the smartest or the prettiest or the funniest, nobody else is too. And that realness is so reassuring,
I
you know.
love it. Then we go on to this one. Imperfection is beauty, madness is genius, and it's better to be absolutely ridiculous and absolutely boring. Amen, sister. I read this. I was like, yeah, we can be friends. We can be friends.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it goes with, like, I for me, this goes to the fact that, I don't have to show up in the world knowing everything. I can figure it out as I go along. At the same time, why take myself so seriously? But you tell me, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, and I think that it goes back to the first one. We compare ourselves and we want to be perfect. We want to, we want to filter it and make it look good and all that. But really the thing that's the most beautiful about each other is the imperfections,
Yeah,
the things that aren't, but I love the madness is genius because we
love
all,
that. This is genius.
because my madness was those levels through this letter writing thing, and that continues to be the narrative of my life. Not just the letters, but being crazy, but to encourage each other to to cash in on our madness. Like, go, let's go. I've got a crazy idea, and it doesn't have to be my crazy idea. We live in this world where here's the blueprint for religion, or here's the blueprint for this. Let's encourage each other to go on our own mad, whatever, our own bananagrams, whatever our version of that is. Be like, let's go, you know
Love
and
it.
let's do it our own way and encourage each other to do that. Because had I not, and I'm just using myself an example, had I had decided not to go nutso and like actually follow through on it, then I wouldn't be able to share the story right now. But we all have our own brand of that in our own head somewhere.
I
So
love it.
let's do it.
I'm a thrill seeker in that I love coming back and saying, "You're never gonna believe what just happened." Like, I
Oh yeah.
love that. You're just never, and the only way that actually happens is if I have enough belief in my crazy ideas that I'll jump into the world trying to do them. And I think that what you say, madness is genius. That's the best. It's the best.
Right.
And then we have people may this is by far one of my favorite quotes too. People may forget what you said, people may forget what you did, but they will always remember how you made them feel. That you say Carol Burnett, I think this is Maya, but either way, both of those ladies, amazing, made people feel amazing. And I love the fact that in the end, that's right. That's what's going to happen. I remember Amy Weinland daughters because God, we had a great afternoon. We just had a
Right.
wonderful time, and she's delightful and brings life to the world where others don't. That is something beautiful. Tell me what you think about this.
Well, yeah, and I think like if we talk about this conversation, you make me feel listened to. You make your you know your you inspire your listeners, but then for me to be your guest, you made me feel heard. You're showing my quotes that I sent you. You made me feel valued.
Yeah,
You made me feel listened to. You made me feel like my story is important. I'll never forget that. And when Dana watches this, she won't forget it either. It absolutely, that's what you're doing. That's what you're living. And I think that's what the letters did. And I think we all have that power via the letters. And that's why I never thought I'd be an advocate for letter writing. I mean, if you had told me that 5 years ago, I'd been like, that's hilarious. Like, what are you even talking about? That's weird.
but I will say this though, I was when I received the letter from you, I was like, God, I felt very special. And we didn't know we don't know each other that well.
Mm-mm.
And I have tried to learn more about you, and I see what you are and who you are. I admire you very much. I like your brand in this world. I like how you're trying to inspire and elevate others. I think that's really important, and your children are watching. Clearly your son was, when you put that last letter in the box. He made that comment at such a young age. He was aware that that impact was there. I find, the fact that we're in this space together very rewarding, as well as, yeah, you made me feel special. So I think that the letter writing, when you get something, it's like, oh my God, you made my day, changed the trajectory of whatever was going on. If it could have been bad, it was a little brighter. And I think that that is absolutely an amazing purpose to anyone's life. And then we turn to this beautiful one that we leave with. And okay, Carol Burnett was one of my favorite people in the world, still is. We watched her all the time on the Carol Burnett show. It was hilarious. My favorite episode was Myra, 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 and I don't know if you remember it, but
I
I
do.
love that one so much. We would laugh for hours. And the fact that you bring her into this space, I'm so grateful. And it's clearly something that's totally you, because the humor is there. It says, to be untroubled by failure and untouched by triumph. That's Carol Burnett on her approach to life. Tell me your take on this.
Yeah, this is who I want to be. This quote right here. And because I do think when you have these epic, like crazy ideas, I mean, it ties so well in with the other little quote about madness is genius, because and we all know this. Everybody who's listening, know life will beat you up,
Mm,
and especially if you dare to put yourself out there, like
yeah,
we all do in different ways. And it's not, again, I don't want to frame this where we all have to do the same thing. Like your podcasting and book writing and inspiration and speaking is somebody else's, like one-on-one connection with people or whatever it is your
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
When you go out there and put yourself out there, it gets hard, and it's easy to feel like, failure after failure before you get to something that's good. Absolutely. It just beats down on you. But to be untroubled by that, just to keep going no matter what, back to your thing about the past. Satchel Paige is like, look at
yeah,
all this crap that just happened behind me. It's like a shit show back
yeah,
there. Stuff blew up and I'm running from it. You know? And
yeah,
but then to be untroubled by that and just keep going and doing what you know you're supposed to do. And then when you get to it and someone gives you like, oh my God, you did so great, be like, I'm just going to keep going. That's not even going to affect me. If I could live like that, if I could really live in that space,
yeah.
I would be the big wiener, for sure.
The big wiener. I love it. And it's so funny the fact that you just visualize that, like the guy running, running to home, and you're like, they're coming for you. Just keep
Yeah,
going. Don't look at the shit show behind you. Just keep
that's
going.
right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you're like, and the world's falling
Yeah,
down.
no, it's literally like this is everything's blowing up, and you're just like, no, I'm going to keep doing the good stuff I know I
Yeah.
can do in this
Oh,
world. I'm going to
so
keep like that,
beautiful.
and then not to get all caught up in your own business. Like
Yes.
have a moment when you achieve something. Like have a moment, and then be like, let's get back in the game. Let's go,
Yes. Oh my, I
and
love it.
not let it get to your head. But those things, friend, because human nature is to do the opposite
Love
of
it.
everything on the code.
I love it. And I love how you said, like, let's go, let's do this, let's go. Like, oh, come on, I still see you. You got this. Let's go. And then even with you, that lady running up the mountain on the first video,
Oh
on the
yeah,
first slide. It's like, come on. Like,
yeah.
don't give up. It's still go. It's still time. It's still time to live. It's still time to write the next letter. It's still time to make that connection. It's still the opportunity to put yourself out there. So I want to go back to some of the really wonderful moments that you've had since you've published your beautiful book. Certainly, I want to put this up there. Now, this is not your first book as well. This is your second book, right? So
Hmm.
we have, I'm going to show in the stream. We have You Cannot Mess This Up being the first one, correct?
Yep.
And then
That's
Dear
yep.
Dana is your second one. So tell me a little bit about your experience since putting these both out into the world.
Well, I mean, the book journey has in both books, and they're totally different animals. But I mean, what a incredible, both of them,
Yeah.
different stories. But I think the thing that I'm most mesmerized about the book journey is that both books, and Dear Dana is more of a relational book, so that's easier to say, is that it is connected me, I've been connected to so many like-minded people, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you have a similar experience. It's like every time I get on, not everything's a hit, like not
Yeah.
everything's a, but it's like an instant connection with my people.
Yeah.
It's like it has brought me, both books have brought me to my people that
Yeah.
I didn't even know I had. And I think that it's such a special thing though, because it's putting yourself out there. And then and you've done this, once they
Yeah.
publish it, and then like you can't go back. Wait, because we progress as people,
Yeah.
and so it's scary, but just by virtue of putting myself out there writing the books, it has just been just a magical ride, but of connection. Like being connected to you is another rung in the ladder of amazingness,
Well, I was looking through your beautiful Facebook page and I found this and I was like, "Oh my God." And this is you and Dana and Kelly. And
Hmm.
it's interesting because I mean, she's had her moments too, but you got to be in that space with her sharing this experience with the two of you together. I mean, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, that was otherworldly. And as an author, like to get that kind of opportunity, is absolutely, and it's just a credit to the story, and it's amazing because I have a publicist, and she got this done. I mean, I don't know how she did it, but one of the amazing connections is so they were interested in our story. Kelly or the producers were interested in the story. I guess she was too. And so we had to each make a video, Dana and I, and send it to Kelly Clarkson and be like, here's our story, kind of like, here's how you should be on. So, I mean, me and Dana make these videos, and we both and she lives in Louisiana, I live in Texas, so we don't even see each other during all this. We just send the videos to the producer, and we get like 45 seconds to tell our story, and I find out when they send like when we're doing all this, like trying to get it together, and it looked like, like, is it really going to happen or not?
Yeah.
You're sitting on, it took like 45 days to get it done. I find out that one of their sponsors is Pilot Pens, which is incredible because I'm a pen pal, I'm a hand, and I write with a very specific Pilot pen. Like I am a pen snob because I'm a pen pal, and I wrote 600 letters, and I have a favorite pen. And so I told Kelly Clarkson that in the thing. And I mean, it was just like, whatever. It was like, it was destined to be. And so
Oh my God.
I got to they flew us out there, like gave us a driver that he's like, I'm the one who picks people up there. The famous people go on their show. Dana and I were like, this is your C-lister day, isn't it? Like we're like on the Q list, like we're not even on the A or B. So we get over there, we go in the Kelly Clarkson show. Like there were so many moments, but we go in the Kelly Clarkson show, and I like pack snacks thinking it's gonna be a long day because we had like a pre-interview, like, and so they don't script what you're going to say, but they kind of tell you, let's cover these points because you're going to have 4 minutes with Kelly Clarkson or 6 minutes. And so we go there. I got my bag of snacks like on mom.com.
Oh my
We
God.
go in there. We're like acting like we've been somewhere before. And we get our own dressing rooms. And you should have seen, it's like she left us back there, and Dana and I are like, yeah, like she left, and we were like, woo, like we just won the freaking Olympics, So we get back there, and the whole thing is otherworldly. So they throw us out there with Kelly Clarkson. I mean, like the camera comes on, the lights come on, there's a studio audience. And I had this moment when Dana was talking, because she lets, there's pictures of Parker going off behind us, and the pictures of letter writing. I had this moment where I looked at
Oh
Dana,
wow, that's
who's
so
now my
beautiful.
best friend. We went from being pen pals,
Oh, that's
like,
so beautiful.
and I like sent letters to her husband's office inappropriately,
Oh.
and I looked at her and I was like, oh my God, how did we even get here? And she's talking about her kids and her getting these letters after Parker died and what it meant to them. And I'm looking at her, and Kelly Clarkson is sitting right here. And I'm like, Kelly Clarkson is crying. And I'm like, what the hell has happened? Like, how did we get here? And my friend is so brave. She's bravely sharing about her son. So we get to the end of this thing, and the lights go off, and Kelly Clarkson leans across me, and she grabs Dana Rivera's hand, and it's like, Dana, tell me about your kids. Because she's just like as real as you want her to be. And we get up, we all hug each other like 3 times because we're all from the South, like we brought gifts. They're like, bring gifts to the Kelly Clarkson show. We're like, Dana was like, okay, I'm going to eat all your snacks in your room because I don't want Kelly Clarkson to think I ate all the snacks. So Dana literally like loaded her purse up out of my room, out of my dressing room, But anyway, and I hug Kelly Clarkson. I'm like, Kelly Clarkson, I don't know what this is all about. I don't know what I'm even doing here. Like, I don't even understand what has happened at the Kelly. But Kelly Clarkson, let me tell you this. You just let my friend talk about her son
Oh, that's
on
beautiful.
national television. I was like, Kelly Clarkson, you are the bomb.com, Kelly Clarkson. And then we hugged each other. We like hugged each other like 3 times, and took the picture. and went home
Oh
from
my
Los
God.
Angeles. But it was,
Kelly
uh,
Clarkson, thebomb.com, but I'm certain that Dana and Parker are thebomb.com,
no,
right?
they are.
Oh
No,
my,
100%. Yeah.
you use the word constant, hashtag constant. I wanted to ask you about that as well. And, also because, you got the message out there, obviously. Kelly Clarkson, was listen, and what you said, Parker was on the screen behind you. I mean, wow, like talk about putting someone's legacy out and the message of his life lives on, Dana's life lives on through you guys. Just amazing. And you did that. Like you said, you guys did that together. That was the beauty of the letter writing campaign. That was the beauty of the love that permeates from a terrible situation to something where you guys hold each other on this path of life, right? That's the journey. We take care of each other, walk each other home, whatever that means to you. But tell me about that hashtag.
Yeah. And, when I was writing Dana at the beginning, I had this I had a best friend that lives in England. We lived in England for 3 years. And so me and her would text back and forth, and we started hashtagging everything. And we didn't even know what hashtags were.
I
Like
still don't.
we're a bunch of, like yoo-hoos, like we didn't know what we were doing. But we just did that. So I started in the letters to Dana in the pen paling, and we still write each other and we still hashtag. Like she hashtagged me this morning, something funny, because now I talk to her every day, and she was telling me on the way to work today, she was like, I was on the Zon, like Amazon. She was
Oh,
calling it the Zon. So we're literally, before we came on this call, we were hashtagging each other the Zon. Like who says the Zon?
oh my
She's
God.
hilarious. But anyway, so the
God.
hashtag constant became this huge thing that I did not understand, because I told her and her family that I was praying for them constantly,
Constant.
before. But the hashtag about constant didn't happen until the letters after Parker passed away. So I'd be like, I'm praying for you constantly, hashtag constant. I didn't even know what a hashtag was, but at the bottom of every letter, I started saying hashtag constant.
Wow.
And I told her it wasn't just me that was praying for it, it was all my people were praying for. And I told everyone the story because I couldn't shut up. And that was another thing I said, God's love so real, I can't shut up. And I still say that. So hashtag constant became like the word, like at the end of every letter, hashtag constant. So when I met Dana and her family in person, we went to Memphis, Tennessee, and met, and at the St. Jude Marathon weekend,
Oh
and it was
wow.
2016. We had not seen each other for 30 something years,
Oh wow.
and so I'm going to walk into the lobby at this hotel with my kid and my husband. We're going to walk in and see these people. We're all wearing Team Parker shirts because they invited us to be on Team Parker. And I'll tell you what, I would have done anything she asked me to do, Meg. And so she's
Yeah.
like, do you want to meet us in Memphis? I was like, absolutely. My husband's like, we are crazy. I'm like, I know, we're totally nuts.
What
And
level is that, right? Which one?
right. And I didn't even know how crazy she was, like me, So we walk in, and, the biggest hug in the whole world. And it wasn't awkward because we shared about everything. And all of a sudden, our personalities just did this. And it was like, this is going to be the most fun any two people ever had. Like, there's going to be trouble. And our husbands were like, oh, they're best friends now, too. Like, oh my God, what is happening? But those people in
Yeah.
the lobby of that hotel, they were like, this is constant.
It's
They called me constant. Her kids still call me constant. I'm in her phone as constant.
wow.
That's my name to those people. I had no clue what the letters meant, that constant was even a thing. It was like my head was spinning around like,
Wow.
why are they calling me constant? They're like, that's what we call you. And
Wow.
her youngest daughter is pregnant right now. And
Oh,
so, I pray for them. I pray for all her kids, obviously, but she'll be like, constant. Here's the deal. Like, constant. Here's the situation.
oh wow.
But it's this God thing, this prayer thing, but at the same time, like,
I love it.
let's drink and have fun. Like, this is nuts. Like, let me dance around and slap my butt in your face and tell you that I'm praying for you. So it's so big, and our lives are so intertwined now.
That's so
And
beautiful.
she still calls me constant. That's how I am in her
Oh my
phone.
God. I love you. You are I mean, a constant flow of wonderful energy. How could that not be you? What's some of the tools that you use that can inspire other people to perhaps start with that action that propels them forward into that brilliant destiny?
Yeah, I think that, I think we all, especially as women, I think we all suffer from this imposter syndrome a little bit. And I never even heard that word till like last year, and I was like, oh, I totally identify with that business. But I think when we stop, I think the only thing a lot of times standing in our way, and I'm speaking in my own experience is ourselves. I
Mm,
think that when we get out of our own way
yeah.
and shut that down just enough to be like, you know what? It's like all those quotes we discussed earlier, and just go for it and then support each other in
Yeah.
that space of I'm going to go nuts. And that's one of the things that my relationship with Dana has transformed my life because now she's my best friend and she's our people. Like she's got the same energy that I
Yeah.
have. Like she
Oh,
goes
I
out
can
in the
tell.
world
I
and
can tell.
changes it.
Oh,
Every
yeah.
day she gets up and hers is even more extraordinary because she does it despite what's happened to her. She is the light in the room. And when you get the two of us together, her husband tells me all the time, his name is Jim. He's like, Amy Daughters, I liked it better when you were in my mailbox because I show up, I'm like loud and out of control, and so is she. But is that to live on that level of I'm gonna go do this, like let's go,
That's
and I'm not gonna stop myself. And what I would encourage people to do is get out of their own way, and whatever that is they got kicking around in their head and their heart,
I love
let's go. Find somebody in life who's gonna support you and do that. Find a friend, find a coworker, find a kid that you gave birth to, a BFF, a sister, whatever, a
yeah.
mom, somebody who will tell you, yes, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go and let yourself go and see what happens.
So let me ask you something with regard to your intention for today. What was your intention for today, and what was the page you chose in the Magical Guide to Bliss?
Page 174, and it's take a joy inventory.
Ooh, I love it. That's so you. And
And
what was your intention for the show today?
my intention for the show today was to um, find joy in my connection with you,
Oh,
and to find joy that I get to share this story with the rest of the world. And so I can get up in whatever kind of funky mood I want to, But today I got to meet my friend Meg for the first time in
I
person.
get to meet my friend
And
Amy.
today I got to share the joy of your journey and my journey me and
Oh,
Dana's
I love
journey,
it.
connecting together. Our paths intersect today,
They
Meg,
did. They did.
and what joy in that. And I'm going to get off the phone and do another joy in inventory and think about how this is probably going to be the highlight of my week, and what a joy to meet someone who's like-minded and connect our story with yours.
This is about getting real joy from the interactions, the interconnections that we make on the daily basis, so that we, by virtue of this, can impact others, and the ripple effect can go beyond our wildest imagination. And what inspiration you want to leave all of us with today?
Okay, I would say for 66 cents and about 15 minutes of your time, I would encourage everyone to go out and write one card or letter. And here's the deal about letter writing, guys. The number one rule in letter writing is there are no rules. You can write two sentences in a card that's this big from Target, because they have them, and throw a stamp on that, and you will absolutely make someone's week, year, life. You don't know what you can do with 66 cents and 15 minutes, and you absolutely cannot get it wrong. You cannot get it wrong. And we have this incredible power to deliver more than we ever thought we could deliver. It could be the most impactful thing you did today. So I would just encourage everyone to try one. And it can be two sentences, and you're peace out, and then
Peace
you just
out.
then you mic drop, because that's what you will do. It's a
Mic
mic drop.
drop.
And I will tell you, it is never ever too late. Ever too late to tell another human being that you care about them.
Oh, it's beautiful. And your shirt says it. Be kind and be
Oh
kind.
yeah, be kind.
I love it. Be
And
kind.
rewind if you're a VCR tape.
Everyone. I love it. Some people don't even know what that's alluding to.
Yeah.
Blockbuster days, as they were. So,
Yeah.
everybody out there, how can we contact you, Amy Weinland Daughter, to get your book and perhaps have a conversation with you?
Daughters.com. That's the hub of
Okay, let's spell
all
that
that.
out, because I think if people on the podcast want to hear, it's AMYDAUGHTERS
Right.
.com. That's amydaughters.com. You're on Facebook, obviously, right? So,
Right.
and that's
Right.
under Amy Weinland Daughters, or is that just Amy Daughters as well?
Well, there's the Amy Weinland Daughters. That's my personal page, and then there's Amy Daughters author, Amy Weinland Daughters author,
Okay.
and then on Instagram, that's smoking hot Amy S.
Oh, I
Which
love it. So you
makes
gotta
all
spell
the
that out.
sense in the world. Yeah, smoking. So it's SMOKIN
And then
HOT. Yeah, Amy S. Yeah.
there you go. Okay, that's awesome. Smoking hot Amy S. I love it.
Much to my husband's sugar and my children. Yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
God, you guys must have the most fun and behind the clothes, like the real in real life, right? In real life, for sure.
yeah.
And the other thing I want to say is, you guys go out, please go out and get her books, especially Dear Dana. It's for sale on Amazon and where all books are sold, Barnes and Noble. And I'm sure if you contact her at amydaughters.com, you can get a signed copy and get a letter maybe from her herself. So you never know, you might get hit with some amazing energy by virtue of the pilot pen that she so eloquently scripts her letters so well, right? I
Yeah.
love it.
No, do. And then, on my website, there's a like a little form you can fill out that'll go directly to me, or you can click on the
Even better.
email
Yeah.
and then that'll go to me, and then the Facebook and all those other links are on the page too. And plus there's some great pictures of me in a polyester pantsuit, which,
Oh my God.
that's complimentary from those of us here
Yes.
at Dear Dana.
There you go.
So,
Oh my God, that's awesome. So send us out with a final word now. I know that
yeah, no, I think that, the hope we are all looking for, the hope we are all desperate for is within each other. It's sitting next to us at the dinner table. It's at the office cubicle next door. It's at the other end of an email or a phone call or a letter, of course, or Facebook. The hope we are all so desperate to find is within our connections. And if we could start seeing the hero in each other instead of the villain again,
ah,
we can change the whole world, guys.
amen. I agree. I love that. I want to thank you so much, Amy, for joining me here in this space, manifesting with me today. It has been wonderful. You truly are an extraordinary person. And I'm glad and grateful that you introduced me to Dana and Parker and all of the other numbered letters that you sent out into the world that I got to read about. It's a really wonderful book. I definitely suggest you all go take a look. It's a fast read, and it really is an expression of the interconnectedness we can get from each other through love. And I say amen to that. So, everybody, time to manifest living fully, loving intently, and laughing more. Amy is certainly someone who will encourage that. And yes, finding ways, of course, to play. Get ready to dazzle, butterflies. I really believe in all of you. Thank you again so much, Amy, and everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye bye.